two new appointees, and we have Russell and we have Batt, and they're really leading the charge for blockchain within the state of Colorado government, which is wonderful. And then of course we have Frannie from the Colorado Technology Association. She's here to be on the panel. And then everyone here, if you came to the summit last time, we had Vance Brown from the National Cybersecurity Center. Great organization right here in Colorado. And we have Forrest Senti from NCC here. So they're going to have a great panel discussion really talking about how Colorado is leading in innovation in blockchain and what we can expect in this coming year. So I'm going to turn it over to Russell and he's going to moderate this great panel.
Thanks a lot. Thanks everybody for coming. Dad normally says this, but I'm going to say it since I'm moderating this. We're from the government and we're to help. We're to help. Oh yeah, that's the bonus. It's okay. How many of you have come to previous events with government blockchain stuff in Colorado? Just so we can okay, so you guys are up on this blockchain for the wind thing that we have here, thanks to Governor Polis, which we're all really excited about. Would you guys like to do a little extra introductions for you? Or okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. So Frannie, she leads the Colorado Technology Association. Any members here right now? Okay, we have a few. This is a ripe opportunity for you to get more members. She is advancing the state's tech ecosystem through talent, advocacy, economic development, and community. And she also worked at IBM for almost 20 years. We've got Forrest, who as already said, the Director of Business and Government Initiatives at the National Cybersecurity Center. He created the Secure the Vote program, and it's an initiative that runs a collaboration between government, military, academia, and industry to solve election problems, which we can all relate to. He worked with the Denver mobile voting pilot, in which Denver was the first U.S. city to use a blockchain-based mobile voting application for overseas voters to allow them to vote, use a blockchain to audit the results. Pretty darn cool. And then my buddy here, Thad, who also works at the Governor's Office of Information Technology. He has a technical background in programming, more than 20 years of experience in digital product development. Thad joined in April for the state, and he has a mission to evaluate technologies, develop standards, and responsibility onboard these new tools into the organization, into the state. And then me, for those of you who don't know me, you may know me as the CEO of WantPay, which was my primary thing. We did non-custodial, no need for banks, cryptocurrency payments via software. And back in July, I started with the states as the director of digital transformation for the state. So that's been really fun because you can just go like that and it's all done. So I just showed up next week and we were finished. It was a fantastic experience. So let's kick off first with Forrest. Can you tell us a bit about voting and how blockchain has been used so far and what you see moving forward, how blockchain can really affect voting? We have a mic. Let me, oh, there we go.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again everyone for having us here. Russell, thank you again for moderating and John for hosting tonight. The big thing for everybody to know is where this all came from in terms of why blockchain voting matters. Everybody here knows there's three key principles to any blockchain, right? Auditability, immutability, and transparency. Now, when I say those three words, at any point in time in your entire lifetime as a U.S. citizen, have you ever seen your vote after it's been counted? No, right? So one of the big problems we had, though, initially with these soldiers and citizens overseas when it comes to voting, is we were sending these ballots, whether it be by mail or by email or in some cases even by fax. And for any of the cybersecurity professionals out there, you know that email and fax are excessively susceptible to things like a man-in-the-middle attack, or even if the internet just goes down, you might not be able to get, let's say a printer, for example, right? How are you going to get to a printer, print out a ballot in the middle of Uganda or in Kuwait, on a mission? So where it all came to at the end of the day was we wanted to be able to send these ballots securely and remotely and privately. And the way this came about was we found a company out of Boston called Votes. The Techstars company, for everybody here in Colorado, Techstars.
Remember to spell that. No, because it's not the way you.
Oh, you're right, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so Votes, anybody wants to look them up, it's VOATZ, it's like Boaz. But you know, Votes. So, through that kind of collaboration, we researched their, their system and all the pieces. We brought them and their company called Votem, VOTEM. We did a big collaboration with Denver. The way it ended up with the blockchain portion is that you were actually able to, number one, actually get a receipt of what your ballot was digitally. On top of that, you could see the image of your ballot. And on top of that, there was an actual blockchain result that was tabulated. Because at the end of the day, all a race is race A, selection 1, 2, or 3, right? So if you think of that in binary or in zeros and ones, or even just a, A1, A2, in terms of hashing something and putting it on a chain, it's not a lot of information. So we were able to take those three things, compare them, and actually build a portal with Vote where we set some standards for how to do this. We were to get it out there. We had over 20 people from across the country go in there and mess with results and doing it. So it was kind of a cool experiment for citizens to be able to not only mess around with blockchain, because everybody that participated was not blockchain experts. We had to, there were oftentimes at 9 o'clock at night, like walking through how to decode a payload, so really excited.
Cool. Cool, great, thanks. So Frannie, I moved here from Hawaii 22 months ago, right? And that was largely because of Colorado being such a great place to do business, and because it was a lot better being a blockchain company in Colorado than Hawaii. Trust me, just look at the laws that they have. But I'm really interested in your insight into how appropriate it is for Colorado to be what we're hoping for, to be this blockchain hub. And do you think we've got the businesses and the talent and everything you need to support that?
I actually think we're in the catbird seat. If you look at it, let's look at it from a regulation perspective. We've had 2 governors that have gotten it. And so we have the Blockchain Council under Hickenlooper, and now moving forward, the innovation that we're seeing from Governor Polis's administration is pretty impressive. He understands blockchain. And I know that's one individual, but that's where it starts, that you don't have innovation killers in the regulatory environment, and yet you've got a responsible environment. It looks to me like we have regulation that really we create a petri dish for innovation in blockchain/distributed ledger solutions where the high value is. I mean, I don't. First of all, I have some strong opinions about where mining is going to go, and that's not, the mining side of this is a short-term speculative kind of environment. That what we want are true solutions, and I feel like we have that in Colorado. So, gating factor for any tech hub to grow is talent. So there's a couple things that are going on in Colorado. One is the strong Ethereum-based network that we have. We have a lot of technologists out of that community. Now, our previous speaker didn't take too much of the Ethereum community, but quite frankly, we've got a lot of expertise. The other thing that's very interesting is our early adoption of cannabis legalization. That industry in particular has been associated with not only cryptocurrencies, but also using blockchain technologies in their supply chain. So you look at hemp, you look at cannabis, you look at CBD, that's a ripe industry for implementation, and that's put us in a pretty good position from a talent perspective. And I probably missed another point, but I think that's it.
Great. Also say that Bitcoin's a great way to pay for your cannabis if you can't use your credit card because they can't get banking. Just to throw that out there.
No, I mean, seriously, that's where a lot of innovation is going.
So Thad and I have worked together quite a bit, and so I know I have my answer. I'm always interested when I ask these questions. We always change our answers. So what do you think is the most compelling or most interesting potential solution that we have from the government standpoint. What really looks good. Before you answer, I just want for those of you that are operating, who operates in Colorado or is wanting to operate in Colorado? Okay, how many of you, keep your hands up, how many of you have registered for the VSS to be vendors of the state? Get off your butts and go there. You're supposed to, so if you want to work with us, where we're talking, we're trying to push these programs, go and sign up. I apologize for the user interface. It has nothing to do with me, but I'll work on it. But sign up. Once you get through the slightly excruciating process, then we can start working with you directly. Okay, now, off to you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. That's exactly right. Because what Russell was just talking about really is one of the pillars that we're leading on pretty hard to make Colorado for innovation in blockchain in both business and government. Getting companies involved in creating blockchain-based solutions for government applications is huge for us, right? So Russell's initial question really regarded what are the most interesting use cases that we're seeing right now. And for me, there are literally hundreds and hundreds of potential use cases because we're the stewards of a lot of public data, right? And thinking about the models of transparency and access and trust in the data that's provided to us really lends itself well to blockchain-based platforms for interoperability and consolidating data and metadata across multiple agencies. Because if you think about who it is who controls the most basic information that you have, which is your identity, it's across a bunch of different agencies. Your identity is comprised of your driver's license or state ID, but it's also your birth certificate, your marriage certificate. That is dealt with through CDPHE. And there's no sort of one central point that controls your identity, and that's because, in my opinion, you should control your own identity. So, you should be able to have a repository of important aspects that are attested to by certain different governing authorities, but you should really be able to pick and choose how that data, which provides you with identity, is used. So if you go into a bar and a doorman asks you for your ID or scans your ID, he's getting or she's getting a lot more information than she needs. She needs to know two things. You are who you say you are, and you're old enough to drink. That's it. By consolidating all of these different aspects of your identity and letting you control who sees what, we think that's very empowering to the citizens. The other super interesting use cases that I see for government is in providing sort of an important safety gateway for things that people consume. So food, supply chain, water, supply chain, being able to intercept and trace back foodborne illnesses in a very quick manner, being able to very quickly alert the public that this is an issue, is a real thing that can impact people's lives on an instantaneous basis. It's something that already occurs. It doesn't require super big impact on the processes that are already in place, but it does allow the rails to be greased for information to travel much more freely and be much more transparent.
Great. That was just right. I didn't expect that. No, I'm good. So Frannie, back to you again. So you've been, you worked almost 20 years at IBM. How long have you been with CPA?
15 months.
15 months. So a little more than a year and a half. So that means you started around 13.
Yeah. That's
And so you've seen enough to know like the cycles, the business cycles, how everything goes. From that sort of perspective, where do you think blockchain adoption is going? Where do you think it's likely to happen and how that works?
Yeah, it's interesting, but my role here is I see the big elephant, and I'm not an expert on the back leg. So, but I am, I've lived in this long enough to see how technology and innovation disrupts. And what we saw, have seen over the years is that it's kind of, a bell-shaped curve. When, the crossing the chasm, they like to show it as a bell-shaped curve. The reality is that the first two phases of the adoption curve, or the innovation curve, they're really squishing. And I think that Cloud was a really great example. We went from shadow IT one year to a strategic imperative the next year to, gosh, we'd like to put everything on the cloud, but it's not as safe. On, oh my God, they do technology or they do security so much better than we do. We should put it on the cloud because it's more secure. So that happened very rapidly. I think there's a parallel in that with blockchain and distributed ledger applications because it's so much better. We have so many inefficiencies in our market or lack of transparency. I think the voting is a great example of an application. Let me give you another application that's very interesting. And I also think things move really quickly when you start to see adoption with large organizations. So you've got Salesforce here today. That's a big deal. We have large telecommunications companies that buy and sell from each other. There's a blockchain application that gives the single version of the truth for them. Instead of having tons of people that are reconciling whether the bills are right or wrong and then following up on disputes, they have all the information on the blockchain and then the billing systems are on the outside. So that is a fabulous example of business saving money and providing a better solution. And there's lots of them. And I think the food supply issue is really big, not just for safety of our citizens, but also think of if you have a scare that you've got bad lettuce on the shelves and you don't know where it came from, you're going to take every head of lettuce off the shelf. That's expensive. That's wasteful. So I think that what we'll see is good applications in non-crypto first because it has less friction and it has these are opportunities for high value to business and government.
Great. Yeah. So Forrest, there's some interesting changes in the world and cybersecurity and how it's applied. So we all know that there's a lot of peril around managing your own private keys. And whether you think they should be held by some institution or better held by yourself. Aside from that, what are the cybersecurity implications, maybe some surprises and things that blockchain technology you think is going to bring to the fore in the next few years?
I think what's interesting about it is that as we kind of start to look at these different staking mechanisms, like delegate proof of stake, we start to move away from proof of work like we've been doing. I think some of the existing problems that we've already seen, like with the big Ethereum, I don't know what it was, but they had the big attack where they took it over and they changed all the transactions for it.
Parity bug?
Yeah, that's it. I think those kind of things will still happen as they kind of figure out some of these issues with the proof of work model overall. But I still think, unfortunately, when it comes to blockchain, there's going to be two big issues that will still keep coming up. And the gentleman from Microsoft brought it up today was vendors. Who are you touching with? Who's holding a node in this network? We're still going to have this garbage in, garbage out kind of problem at the end of the day where if somebody's feeding bad transactions to the network, if they're an authority node or someone in this future kind of mechanism, they're going to be able to do that. That's going to be part of their prerogative. There's going to be a trust in participating in that permission system inherently. And then at the end of the day, today, it's the exchanges. It's still most exchanges, unless you're using MetaMask or that type of thing, it's still a username and a password. At the end of the day, it's just an account table. And if you can get the account table, you can find money back. But yeah, that's a big thing we're seeing right now.
So where do you put your crypto? How do you hold your crypto? You don't have to give a name of the place. Nobody can hack you later on, but what?
And what's the price?
Local storage, like a physical wallet.
Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan of paper wallets because they're just amazing. They're absolutely amazing. Actually, do either of you hold crypto? A little bit? You have a mobile wallet? Or, yeah? How about you, Batt?
It's definitely not on my phone.
Yes, if anyone wants some Bitcoin, I've got some right here. So, really. That's what you say now, but in 6 months, who knows?
Because I'm speculating.
Okay, so Frannie, one more question for you, and how quickly do you think that implementations of blockchain are going to happen? what do you think a reasonable time frame is for us to really start seeing penetration? You already hinted at it, right? With how fast cloud went from shadow IT to the only way to do it if you're not crazy.
Right.
And so where do you think, how do you think blockchain
I
stack
think
up?
it's going to be really fast. I think next year's summit is going to, thank you. What is that?
We're very collaborative here.
Yeah.
Should we get consensus?
I think next year's summit is going to show that. I think in the next year, we're going to see tremendous change. What we seriously do see is that we saw a cliff that happened with the adoption of cloud. And I think that's going to be how this works. It works with getting successes, and I think that they're not easy implementations, but they're doable implementations. And when you start to see success and there's viable business cases, the dominoes will drop or fall. And so I think that's, I think next year, I think in the next 12 months, we're going to see a lot of progress. But I don't, quite frankly, think it's going to be a cryptocurrency. It's going to be in use cases around non-crypto environments.
So how many of you have Colorado driver's license or something issued from the state? So you folks, we talked about blockchain, and one of the things missing, and one thing Batt talked about was digital identity. I can't say too much to you, but I can say over the next month, look for the news about My Colorado and what we're trying to do with digital identity here in the state. I think you'll find it very exciting.
I'm thrilled about that from a safety perspective. I quite frankly don't want my daughter showing their ID that has the address of their house.
Right, so she's seen some of the secret stuff, so you can get her to show you that's I just don't tell me. Okay. So Thad, how can these folks who eventually will go and register to be vendors for the state, how can they work with the state? How can they benefit? What programs are we maybe dreaming up that they can come into?
Absolutely. So we have a upcoming hackathon type event that is called a Battathon, and it will be comprised of putting out a handful of use cases that have been pre-identified to development community in Colorado, including startups or students or anyone who's interested in trying to provide an MVP type solution. There will be cash prizes involved, and they will be not insignificant. That will hopefully give us a runway into testing in a production environment and give an on-ramp for some underrepresented companies or organizations to become potential vendors of the state. And I'm getting a wrap-up signal from the back, so I'm going to thank Russell for hosting and all of my fellow panelists. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.